Hello, I'm Jeff Lewis, and welcome to Temperature Check with Jeff. Today, we're going to take our temperatures on something I like to call the risk of moron rule, specifically as it relates to PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program. But first, I'd like for everyone watching to learn how to make your own face mask out of a household t-shirt like I just did from our very own U.S. Surgeon General, Jerome Adams.
With items you can find around the house.
Please watch the video while I take my temperature.
A bandana or a hand towel, or you can make a face covering out of an old t-shirt. Fold it to the middle. From the
Watch
bottom.
the video. Don't watch me. It's very, very important information.
Fold it again to the middle from the bottom.
And again 96.8. Excellent.
2 rubber bands. One on one side and one on the other side.
We'll get started in just a moment.
Fold either side to the middle, and you have yourself cloth face covering. It's that easy.
It's that easy. So that is the Surgeon General of the United States, okay? He published that video that the CDC, the United States CDC, published that video to let's see, the lighting here is kind of making me look ugly. Published that video to YouTube a few days ago, where literally the Surgeon General is teaching Americans how to make their own face masks out of household items such as T-shirts or bandanas. I used my In Search of Narrative Violations T-shirts here because there was such a shortage of actual protective masks in the U.S. after literally 6+ weeks of the WHO and the US CDC telling all of us that masks actually don't help vis-a-vis COVID-19. So in watching that video, it struck me that, I don't know Jerome Adams. I don't know anything about him. But certainly that video strikes me as really moronic. And I think it's the type of thing that's sort of very politically incorrect to say. You sort of watch this video that the Surgeon General is doing, showing you how to make a mask. When there's this sort of crazy health pandemic and we're all locked up in our homes. Watching that video, I felt like I was watching something that on a scale of 1 to 10 of sort of being really moronic was like a 10. And we're operating in an environment where that is a video put out by the CDC, and that was the Surgeon General. So if that video is a 10 on the moron scale, it's sort of hard to imagine what else might be going on behind the scenes in terms of moronity. Which brings me to my topic for today. Entrepreneurs, I want to talk to you briefly about the Paycheck Protection Program. So, Paycheck Protection Program, PPP. Lots of startups out there are scrambling to apply for the PPP. The regulations from the SBA, the Small Business Administration, around this have been revised, have been changed. There's like hundreds of pages worth of documentation that you have to read. Really, really hard to understand. So I like to always go to what is sort of at the highest level, a sort of simple framework for making sense of the PPP. And my simple framework that I've come up with is that we should basically assume that that basically whoever is running the PPP and whoever is processing the PPP applications behind the scenes, probably, there's a risk they might be kind of moronic. So there's a risk the whole program, just based on everything that's been put out, the way in which it's super confusing, super hard to dissect. It's been changed a million times. If we sort of have the Surgeon General of the USA showing us how to make face masks with T-shirts, that seems really moronic. It's probably safe to assume that however your PPP application is going to get processed, there is a risk of moronity involved in the processing of your PPP loan. So basically, how does the PPP loan work? Well, you first of all have to legally certify upfront that current economic uncertainty makes the loan request necessary to support ongoing operations of your startup. Now, that all sounds well and good. However, eligibility is only going to be tested in hindsight. So like a year after you receive the loan, someone in a government bureaucracy office at the SBA will be reviewing that loan application, and they're going to decide ex post after the fact if you were eligible. Now, that video we just saw was of the Surgeon General. Do we think that the person reviewing your PPP loan application has a higher or lower risk of potentially having a little bit of morality to them as they're reviewing than that video of the Surgeon General. I would say the risk of them being a moron is moderately high. If you are found to have done a false certification by whoever reviews your application, imprisonment of up to 30 years and a fine of up to $1 million could be levied on you. Additionally, your application is going to be available publicly via Freedom of Information requests, and of course will contain a lot of sensitive, non-public information about your company and yourself. So I would just ask yourself, given this rule, the risk of moron rule, is it worth it for your startup to apply for PPP? Lots of VCs are talking about the ethical reasons why we should prioritize Main Street businesses over venture-backed tech startups. I tend to agree with that line of logic. Lots of VCs are talking about, the fact that all startups should be applying for PPP. There are lots of differing viewpoints. My viewpoint is just, you always, if possible, want to avoid taking money from morons. If I meet an entrepreneur, they think I'm a moron, I would tell them, don't take my money. You never want to take money from morons. I think there's a meaningful risk that whoever ends up reviewing your PPP loan application after you've already received the loan as a startup, they might be a moron. They might be wearing their made at home T-shirt, face mask to protect them from the coronavirus while they're reviewing your application, and therefore you might want to be careful before you apply for PPP. Peace out, entrepreneurs. My temperature is normal. What's yours?